Hello and welcome to Held in Our Hearts Baby Loss Podcast. We are an Edinburgh-based charity providing baby loss counselling and support for bereaved families. We are committed to ensuring that no family has to face their journey of loss alone, and we wanted to create this podcast to reach out and share stories, encouraging greater connection and understanding. Join us on our journey as we speak to a wide variety of guest speakers who have been personally affected by baby loss or who have been moved by it.
Hello and welcome to our podcast. Today Tracy Watt talks to Maureen Scott about her journey as a midwife. They talk about the challenges she faced as a new midwife and also her journey with Held in Her Hearts. Maureen talks about her own family and then growing up, how being a midwife was never a career that she ever thought about. She talks about events that nearly stopped her from becoming a midwife and how on her way to work when she was attacked, that it was friends and family that helped her face the traumatic weeks and months ahead and helped her to forge on in her career. She explained she was not going to let him win, and she went on to become the person she is today, making sure families get the best care. Maureen and Tracy chat about the challenges that midwives face now and how important the training given by Held in Her Hearts has become, how that support for newly trained midwives is so crucial, and even more so now following the last few years in the pandemic. They chat about Tracy's own personal journey with Maureen and how when she was looked after when her son Lewis was born and lived for 19 hours. They chat about what the future holds for both of them and how life will never be the same again since they met. We hope you enjoy.
Here we are this morning with Maureen Scott. So who is Maureen then? Good morning, Maureen.
Good morning to you, Tracy. Well, who is Maureen? If anybody knows the answer to that, let me know. I'm still trying to find her. Maureen, I was born in Edinburgh. My parents at that point, my dad was a zookeeper. My mum used to work as a home help. I had a big brother called Billy. Grew up in Edinburgh, went to school in Edinburgh. While I was growing up, my mum didn't keep well, was in and out of hospital. So, I used to visit her in hospital with my brother and my father and got kind of used to visiting hospital. Unfortunately, she did die when I was 10 years old, which was terrible, but it kind of made me all the stronger to want to kind of carry on and do something. And I kind of set my mind on kind of doing well at school so that I could go into nurse training. And the rest is history. I'm obviously married to Lewis Hunston, who I think Held in Their Hearts know, and I've got two grown-up children, Elizabeth and Robbie, who I adore.
Oh, amazing. So growing up then, Maureen, was always your dream job then to become a midwife?
No, at the beginning I didn't want to be a midwife at all. It was my dream job because of kind of my previous experience, just kind of being in and out of hospitals and kind of seeing what happened in hospitals. It was my dream to become a nurse. It was later, after I'd been nursing, I kind of worked, when I qualified, I worked in surgical, then I worked in medical. And that I decided I wanted to do some voluntary work abroad. And to be able to do that, I needed to have a second course. And at that point, you couldn't do direct entry into midwifery. It had to be kind of an add-on to your initial nurse training. But I kind of didn't even know then it was going to be midwifery. I kind of went between thinking child nursing, midwifery, and eventually chose midwifery. Went through to Glasgow to do a course in midwifery to find out that I absolutely loved it. So initially it was just something, an add-on to allow me to do this dream of doing voluntary work. But I just found what I'd been looking for. And, unbeknown to me, it was midwifery. I just really loved the autonomy of it. I loved working with mums. I loved working with babies. Yeah. You got me?
I'm fantastic. And, I've got you. And saying that as well, you're chatting there about your training in Glasgow and training to become a midwife. what would you say then were some of the high points of the time that you spent in Glasgow with doing your training?
I think high points were just the kind of the learning how to be with women, and learning how to kind of just have the skills to take women through pregnancy and kind of give advice and support, be with them, learn about them, learn about their lives, help their journey into parenthood. So high points, just being involved in that whole kind of journey. I mean, obviously there are low points too. Not everybody takes their baby home. Babies, advent, adverse things can happen, and learning that it wasn't always a joyous job. It could leave you feeling very sad as well. But generally, it was a kind of an awakening within me that this is something that I really enjoy and want to do. Right. Have you got me?
You're it's so true. Yeah, I've got you, and it's there. You're right when you talk there about the high points and the low points in your training, and being obviously over a number of years. Was there ever at any point, Maureen, that you thought about giving up, or just think like this is not for me?
Funnily enough, it came before the midwifery part. I almost never finished my nurse training, and that was because of a personal thing that happened. Just the beginning of second year, I was very brutally attacked on my way to a night shift and ended up in hospital, but having been attacked en route to hospital, and it left me quite scarred. I had head injuries and strangulation marks and all sorts of stuff, and I thought, why am I wanting to give so much when this can happen to you? So I almost never finished, but I had, sorry.
Yeah. It's such a difficult...
Yeah. I mean, that was a long time ago. I had gorgeous friends. I had people that I trained with. They know who they are. They're some of my best friends who got me through it. And I honestly, when I came out of hospital myself, I thought, I can't go and care for people, because just out of the blue, somebody can come and kind of hurt and harm you. Yeah. But I got over that, and I had lovely support, and I still know these people. And at that point, there was not as much kind of post-traumatic counselling or kind of training, or places for you to go. It was a bit like, right, it's happened, get on with it kind of thing. But I had I had people around me who loved and supported me. So I actually did go back, and it made me all the stronger for it. But yeah, I almost never finished. But I thought, no, I'm not going to let this random thing get in the way of me doing what I need to do and to achieve what I needed to do. And I mean, there has been sorry, I didn't even mean to go there, but it just came out. There have been other times where times have been tough. Staff have been short. You work, just feels that you never quite can give as much as you want to give. And I've thought, why am I doing this? Why am I doing these shifts? Why that affect me, and sometimes come home and can make me feel very grumpy, and family have to put up with me. But on the whole, no, I've never regretted it, and I kind of I've loved it.
Maureen, with that beautiful smile, we could never ever imagine you being. We could never imagine you being grumpy, Maureen. That beautiful smile that you've got.
You should speak to Lewis and my children. They would disagree with you.
And it's incredible there when you talk about your own personal experience about why you gave up, and and I'm personally grateful that you never, and the support coming through something like that. You're right, the support of friends and family it is super important, and the fact that you've still got these friends in your life will be is so special too.
It absolutely is. And as I say, they know who they are. They're my group of girls. That we get back to girls. I keep referring to girls. We're in their 60s now. That we anytime we're all over the place. When we get together, we love a party, and they've been there since the beginning, and we're still just love each other to bits. And Lewis kind of came into the scene round about these times as well, and he's been my rod. Oh, don't get me wrong, we kind of we came and went a lot at the beginning, but we were meant to be together, and he became my rod, and we kind of travelled through it together.
And that's so lovely to hear that, he's been there for you, because the one thing I was going to also ask you is, when you were chatting there earlier about, parent, you supported so many. I mean, it's thousands and thousands of parents and babies that you've delivered over the years. And, the high points are when you see a family take their baby home and leave the hospital with their baby. But, we were chatting about the loss when someone does, sadly loses their baby and they're not making that walk home. And how did you find that on a shift? How did you cope when that happened to a family?
It's just always really, really difficult. You just feel heartbroken for them, but at that point they really need you. So it's like being there for the family, not always knowing exactly what to say, because again, back in the early days, we didn't have as much training in kind of looking after families that lost their babies. We didn't have as much as that's about just now, and thank goodness for all the work that you guys do at Held in Their Hearts and Firmly Sands with the kind of coming in and speaking at university to students and kind of supporting staff as well, because there really wasn't, and it was just kind of peer support mostly again. But there could be some days where you just come home drained, emotionally drenched, just feeling so kind of upset and sad for the family, and thinking, was there anything I could have done better? Was there anything as a team we could have done better? What, how can we make this better and for other mums and babies and parents and family? But it's kind of it's just saddens you. And I've cried myself to sleep on numerous occasions, thinking, you're there for the family when you're with them, but just coming home and falling apart, and then coming back to face a new day the next day, kind of start again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it makes complete sense. And, when you're saying there that the support or the training given was really very much about, it was very peer-to-peer at the time. And, coming through the last 2 years and COVID and the varying circumstances and challenges that, midwives face, how important then, you were chatting there about the work that Held in Our Hearts does, and the fact that, we go into hospitals and we go into the universities and colleges and talk to student midwives. How important would you say then that training is that for?
It's priceless. It's priceless. It's so important. Absolutely so important. I think now more than ever, people, that there's much more kind of talk about feelings, about how to be with somebody. There's the students come back and any students that have spent time or been at one of the talks with Held in Their Hearts, they come back so kind of full of it and discuss it, and it's just, I think it's essential. It's so important, and I think you guys do an amazing job.
Thank you. And you're right. And for myself, who has went in and chatted to student midwives, it's always a pleasure to be able to talk about my particular story, and to talk about my son, and to be able to share the love and care that I received from a very special midwife. And Maureen, that midwife is you. And when I spent 19 hours with Lewis, the thing that got me through was you.
Oh, thank you.
Today's a special day because it's, Lewis would have been 31 today. So 31 years ago today, you were with me and you were spending that time and you were showing me how to be a mother. And for me to look at you and say, what do I do? How do I look after a sick baby? And you showed me how to look after my son.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's. Do you know, I do remember, and I remember you. I remember you as a frightened young mother, being very wanting so much to be with your baby, but just so very frightened to hold him in case you hurt him or done something wrong. And I do remember, parts of it, parts of it stick very clearly in my mind, just the kind of, just slowly, gradually helping you just to touch him, stroke him, explore him, be with him, and just, very, very precious shared moments.
And you're the person who, I don't know if it's one of the things that sticks in my mind when I came into the room, and the thing that you said to me, and I know that I'll carry this to my absolute grave, is the thing you said, and I hadn't noticed because I was so focused on Lewis staying alive for however long that was going to be. I was so focused on his face and so focused on that. What if he stops breathing? What if I hurt him because he had spina bifida? But the thing he said to me is, he's got the most beautiful, look at his hands, look at his feet. What a beautiful wee face he's got. And these were things that I hadn't paid attention to because I was just so focused on how long was Lewis going to keep breathing for? I couldn't think about being a mother. I just thought about being the mother of a child who was about to die, not about being the mother of a child who was alive and making the most of that time. And that's where your skills as a midwife and as a naturally lovely person just came into play.
Oh, yeah, it's I can't, sometimes it's difficult to kind of really put into words how you do things, how you support somebody. But it's just, to me, I think making memories with that little one, that he's not, if they're not going to be with you very long, it's even more important just to get to know them, make that memory, look at them, look at him for the time that he was there, and that kind of discover him, explore him, so that will stay with you forever. And it's it's not easy, and it's sometimes I don't even know what what comes next is natural. I don't have a written script on how to deal with any one person. It's seeing that person, seeing the baby, seeing the situation, and knowing the important things are that you make memories with this little one, because you want him to have him and remember him forever, for the kind of good reasons as well. Yeah.
And the one thing I still have, I think it makes complete sense to both of us and to any bereaved parents listening who have that relationship with their midwife, and they know that the midwife, the staff involved want to make sure that you have your memories are as a mother. You're making memories as a mum for that short space of time. And there wasn't, for me, there wasn't the hand and the footprints that were done, but the thing that I have is a lock of hair that I got that you had given me for Lewis, and I still have that to this day, and it's in a drawer, and it's in a tiny wee box, and that was you that did that.
Absolutely lovely. And I'm so glad you have it, and I'm so glad that we can share the memory as well. And I think thinking back to the time, I do remember one other thing that I said to you was that we talked about his name being Lewis, and I said my then partner to become husband was also called Lewis. And
that's right.
Yeah, and I do remember that. We had a wee chat about Lewises and their characters. And I know that not every Lewis has got the same character, but just that the comparisons between them.
They're both stubborn.
Yeah. Oh, stubborn isn't the stubborn doesn't even begin to explain. Describe. Yeah. And I do remember that conversation as well quite clearly. So he's always stuck in my mind as well. As of of other babies that have mums and babies I've looked after, they kind of stick in my mind for different reasons. But for Lewis, it was about being Lewis and about yeah.
I think for us, our connection is, I'd move away to Fort William and I'd come back, and I remember bumping into you, and I remember just looking at you. I was in a fitness class and thinking, oh, that's Maureen. That's Maureen who looked after my Lewis. And, you know, when you signed up to run for, you know, when your email came through to run in the Edinburgh Marathon Festival weekend for Held in Our Hearts, I remember reading your email and just staring at your name thinking, this is the woman who has held my son.
Yeah. I mean, coming and running for Held in Our Hearts was a great thing. I mean, that was the year that we did the whole Big Simpsons team, and I'd always messed about a bit with kind of running off and running on, but it just seemed that more and more, you know, that you know, for me as a midwife, you know, there comes a point where you just can't do enough, you know, for our families that look after that have lost a baby, and you guys I do just do an amazing job, and I think, yeah, you know, you guys kind of back us up and just do such a great thing that anything to kind of help with the organisation just seemed like such a good idea, and to do it so big and so much as part of a team was brilliant. I had no idea that you were working for Held in Their Hearts. So when I was equally as surprised when I got the answer back, I was like, whoa,
what happened
this was
here?
meant to be serendipity.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, as I've said previously, when I was going on to give my story at hospitals and at the universities, you know, the first thing I'd say is my midwife was Maureen Scott, and they go, "Oh, we know Maureen," and it's just so nice to hear your name. And I know on behalf of, you know, all the families, you've supported so many of our families over the years, and it's just amazing to hear the work that you do, and, you know, midwives totally do their utmost to make sure our families, you know, they spend so much time with their babies and that they're loved and looked after. And we thank you so much for that.
Yeah, it's kind of it is difficult because, you know, like everywhere else, there's constraints, and COVID has been a real problem where you know, the kind of face-to-face, you know, parents just didn't get enough face-to-face time. Those that lost babies during that time were really lost because they couldn't really be with relatives either. And as midwives, we were the ones that could be close to them and giving support. Yeah. And you know, just it's been funny old times, and I think, you know, just it saddens me to hear that there's a lot of midwives that are kind of, you know, leaving the profession, and we're kind of understaffed and feeling undervalued at times by the government. So it really saddens me because, you know, being a midwife, that's kind of coming to the end of my career, because, you know, as you know, I've gone on to this kind of semi-retirement from full-time just to being a kind of couple of days a week. You know, there's some amazing people coming through. I've worked with, seriously, some of the best students and kind of junior midwives and new starts that they're there, enthusiastic and want to make a difference to all mums and babies and families. And it just seems that we're kind of, being undervalued.
Working together.
And yeah, so just need to work together and do the best we can to bring about some changes. Yeah, I hope that all made sense. That was a bit of a rant there, so I'm sorry.
No, it makes absolute complete sense. I love it. I love it the way you described, you know, the fact that you're working. You know, it has been such an emotionally challenging time for so many over this past few years. And, you know, you were chatting there about your own journey of being your partial retirement and working 2 days a week. You now, going on from your journey, you now work in the community, which you're well known in Leith.
Oh goodness, I am.
So how has that been?
Yeah, I mean, I moved to the community a long time ago, after being hospital based, and, you know, I think family had a lot to do with that. 12.5-hour shifts and night shifts and things like that. For some people, is kind of family friendly because they can get their shifts in and have more days off because they're working longer shifts. But for me, you know, the coming to community was seemed like I'd always want to come to community at some point, because it's a very rounded job. You're seeing people, you're booking them, you're the first face they see when they become pregnant, and in case, you know, you have your women you look after through all the antenatal checks and try and pick up postnatally again. And there's the home births, and I can tell you a few funny stories about home births, but that might be later. But you know, just a nice rounded way to be a midwife. You know, you're doing a bit of everything. You're seeing people from the beginning all the way through. You're building up relationships, and that to me has just been, you know, the being a community midwife has been everything. You know, I get a bit of everything out of it, and it's just been a great way to come to the end of my career, I think. Yeah. It's a good place to be, but it's incredibly busy. It's not, I think some people think community midwife, somebody pops about, cuddles wee babies at home, has a wee cup of tea and a slice of cake in every house. It's not like that at all. We're running around, meeting ourselves, coming back, trying to fit everything in. But, you know, I think there's this kind of, you know, I don't know what it's based on, but thinking what an easy job it is. But I tell you, it's the biggest, hardest job ever. But it's amazing.
Oh my goodness, I can imagine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you were saying there about the high point of being a community midwife and a home birth. Is there any particular story that you'd like to share with us that sticks in your mind?
Well, I'll say this one is a kind of funny story as well as a kind of home birth story. But there's a couple of streets in Leith that have got very similar names, and I was on call for somebody in a second baby, and I got the phone call to say, could you get to this house quickly? It's her second baby. Things seem to be going fast. So I jumped in the car, took my equipment with me, pulled up outside this little terraced house. I thought, oh, it's very noisy in there. It's not quite the music I would choose for a home birth, but everybody to their own. So I knocked on the door with my little midwife's uniform on. Door was opened. There's lots of people. I got led into a front room. There was a full ongoing party with rock DJ playing full blast, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I'm looking for, and I gave the woman's name, like, oh, that's not here, but come and join the party. I'd gone to the right number, but the wrong street, which sounded very like another street. So I then thought, but they were inviting me into the party, and there's me kind of, oh my God, I've come for the home birth and I've come to a house party. And trying to offer me drinks, and I'm just thinking, oh my God. So I then realised what was happening and bolted along to the other street, the other end of this colony block, and arrived in time, and we ended up, my second on call that night was Susan, and we ended up getting there in plenty of time, having a lovely birth, and the family themselves killing themselves laughing at the thought of me running in to this home birth, and it was a party.
Did they think, Maureen, you'd come in fancy dress?
I don't know what they thought, but somebody stopped the door and said, oh, come on in. And I said I was looking for the name. And they go, oh, yeah, she's through here. And everybody was dancing. And I just think it was just one of those moments where it just so happened that there was somebody in the house that had the same first name as the woman I was looking for. And I'm thinking, this is really not the way I would want a home birth to go. But, I mean, it's their home. Yeah, it was very funny, and there's loads of funny stories about the kind of getting to places and the arriving, and you know, husbands fainting and dribbling down the wall as the baby's been born on the couch, kind of thing. It's there's loads of lovely. I mean, I could write a book called The Midwife Leith Style.
You know what? Maybe you should.
Well, I tell you what, my daughter has suggested it, because you know that her thing is English literature, and she's like, you know, when you properly retire, Mama, I should come and we'll go through my memoirs, like I've taken memoirs. We'll go through all your memories, and we'll write a book. And I'm like, no, I live in Leith, and too many people know me.
That's fantastic. I think we should also, it can't go without saying, you're talking there about Elizabeth, that not only have you ran for Held in Our Hearts, but you've also commandeered Elizabeth and Lewis to run for the
Yeah, Elizabeth is just yeah, she loves running now. I can remember the very first time I took her and a group of her teenage friends for a little run because they wanted to learn how to run, and they just kind of went around kind of huffing and hawing and saying, this is boring. But then she eventually began to enjoy it. Oh, have I got you?
So yeah, you've got me. It's a complete family affair, isn't it?
To get Lewis running, that was the biggest thing. That was after that 2018. And he's like, oh, that was so much fun. I might want to just do that. And both Elizabeth and I pounced on it and bought him some training shoes for Father's Day and then got him onto the couch to 5K.
And he's loving it now. He's loving it. He started running at the age of 60. You know, it's like, why did that happen before then? It's like, why run when you've got a perfectly good car, you know? And who would have thought, you know, our connection would have had you, Lewis, running?
Exactly. It's just like come full circle. It's just like, you know, Lewis's, what are they like?
I know. They do. They quietly go about what they decide what they're going to do in their own time.
In their own time. Absolutely. Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. The only one I've not been able to get to run is Robbie. So sorry.
Well, do you know what? There is still time. There's still time. Maureen, I just want to say it's been such an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Today of all days, it's certainly been a privilege.
Heavenly birthday, Lewis.
Yeah, thank you. And it's to hear your journey from, you know, being a youngster and coming into midwifery and the highs and lows that you faced on your incredible journey. And I know you inspire so many others without even thinking about it, because you just are a natural. You've got that natural smile and you've got that natural way with people. And, you know, as a team of midwives, I know that you've helped with training so many. So we're so grateful to you for everything you've done for all our families. What would you say then would be the thing to finish off our podcast today? What would be the one thing we always ask? What would be the one thing you're grateful for?
I'm just grateful for, as I've said earlier on, having a group of friends around me that have supported me throughout, you know, good and bad times. I'm grateful for my family, whom I love. Hello?
Yep, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I thought I'd lost you. I'm grateful so much to my own family. I didn't mention earlier on, but prior to Elizabeth and Robbie, I'd had 3 miscarriages. So I'm kind of so grateful that I managed to get my Elizabeth and get my, you know, mine, have my own 2 children. So I'm so grateful for them. I'm grateful for my health. I mean, goodness, and who thought I could ever be 61? I mean, that's and still run around Arthur's Seat, you know. So I'm very grateful for health, and I'm just you know, kind of just very grateful what life's, you know, yes, there's been very tough times in my life, but I'm grateful for all the happy times too, and the amount of travel I've been able to do, you know, being a midwife nurse in India back in the 80s, you know, doing amazing experience, all things that have built me into this person I am now. So I'm just grateful for, you know, for despite all the kind of maybe not so good things that happened earlier on in my life, such goodness has come out of it.
And you know what, Maureen, I'm grateful to know you, and I know I'm grateful that you were my midwife, and I know many families will say the same, that they're so grateful for their midwife. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Me too. My pleasure too to speak to you.
Thank you for listening to this personal and very poignant podcast today. And if you've been affected by any of the issues raised, then please contact Held in Our Hearts at www.heldinourhearts.org.uk, where you can speak to any of our staff. Thank you.